All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for tonight's candidate information session. My name is Andrew Buttigieg. I work at the Communications Department here at the City of London. I'll be your host for tonight's meeting and moderator for the Q&A afterwards. We'll also have a recording of this meeting afterwards if you want to go online, london.ca/elections under the candidate information section. If you do have internet connectivity, please rest assured that you can rejoin at any time as well if you are joining online. We look forward to hearing from you tonight. And before we get started, I'll quickly cover some technology housekeeping. The Zoom meeting is set up as a webinar tonight, meaning you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you online. The chat function has been disabled for this evening's webinar, and we'll be focusing the discussion in the Q&A area, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. For those in the room tonight, we'll be using the podium. Those that are sitting at mics, just put your hand up and we can go to you, and then you can use the mic by hitting the button in front of you, but we'll discuss that when we're finished in more detail. We are going to begin tonight's meeting with an acknowledgement that we are gathered on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Ottawadarin. We acknowledge all the treaties that are specific to this area: the two-row Wampum Belt Treaty of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy Silver Covenant Chain, the Beaver Hunting Grounds of the Haudenosaunee-Nanfan Treaty of 1701, the McKee Treaty of 1790, the London Township Treaty of 1796, the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827 with the Anishinaabeg, the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum of the Anishinaabeg and Haudenosaunee. The three Indigenous nations that are neighbors to London are the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation, who all continue to live as sovereign nations with individual and unique languages, cultures, and customs. I'm now going to pass things over to our first speaker of the evening, and that's our city clerk, Michael Schultes, who is going to give us an introduction as well as some key timelines. He'll also introduce this evening's panelists, and whenever you're ready, Michael, you can kick things off.
Thank you, Andrew, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's candidate information session. As indicated, my name is Michael Schultes. I'm the city clerk for the City of London, and I'll be walking you through the opening portion of tonight's session, including key dates and some foundational information to get us started. So whether this is your first time considering running for office or you've participated in a municipal election before, our goal tonight is to give you a clear, practical overview of process, requirements, and expectations. You'll also hear from several members of our elections office, municipal compliance, and the clerk's team throughout the evening on specific topics like eligibility, third-party advertising, election signs, the role of council, and campaign finance. Except for the section delivered by our colleagues in municipal compliance, we'll be addressing questions related to the presentation at the end of the session, so you may want to make note of your questions as we move through the agenda. And just as a reminder, the session is being recorded and will be made available online following the session. So let's begin with a general overview of the agenda. Just back one slide, please. So this session is designed to take you through the full life cycle of running in a municipal election. That's from getting on the ballot to campaigning to understanding the role you're stepping into if elected. And we'll start with a high-level overview of the key dates and timelines so you understand when things happen and what triggers your campaign period. From there, we'll move into nomination and eligibility requirements, including who can run, how to file, and what's required to become a certified candidate. We'll also cover third-party advertising, which is a common area of confusion, particularly around what is and isn't considered regulated advertising and when registration is required. After the break, we'll shift into election signage and bylaw enforcement with a Q&A session to help you understand the local rules around signs, placement, and compliance expectations. Then we'll cover the role of council, including the municipal governance structure and how elected officials are supported day-to-day administratively. As part of this, we will also cover council remuneration. And finally, we'll walk through campaign finance, which is one of the most important and often most complex areas. This includes contributions, spending limits, reporting requirements, and compliance. And finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session at the end for questions related to tonight's presentation. Next slide, please. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the team supporting tonight's session. From the City Clerk's Office elections team, we have Deputy City Clerk Sarah Corman and Evelina Skalski, Manager of Elections, Strategic Integration and Policy, Liridana Rafuna, Election Supervisors Yu Zhang and Iman Chabar, and our municipal election clerks Nathan, Natalia, Madeline, Ethan, and Ingrid. And of course, municipal elections are very much a cross-department effort, and you'll see that reflected in tonight's session. So we're joined by colleagues from corporate communications, Andrea Roseborough and Andrew Buttigieg, as well as colleagues in municipal compliance who will be speaking later this evening, including Director of Municipal Compliance, Amanda Pfeffer, Manager of Compliance and Animal Services, Wade Jeffrey, and Compliance Coordinator, Christine Jarvis. I would like to just take a brief moment to thank the elections team for their work in preparing for tonight's session and for the significant amount of planning already underway for the 2026 municipal election. I would also like to thank Strategic Communications, Municipal Compliance, Facilities, Corporate Security, and Information and Technology Services for their ongoing and operational support for this evening's information session. Next slide, please. Before we get into the details, I do want to highlight an important disclaimer. The information presented tonight is intended to be helpful and informative, but it is not legal advice. The Municipal Elections Act 1996 and associated regulations are the governing legislation, and ultimately candidates are responsible for ensuring their own compliance. So if you encounter situations that are specific or complex, we strongly recommend seeking independent legal or professional advice. Our role in the elections office is to guide you to the appropriate resources and provide general information, but not to interpret the law on your behalf. We'll just move on to the key dates. Next slide, please. So these dates will define your campaign timeline, so it's critical to understand them early. Of course, the 2026 municipal election will take place on Monday, October 26th, 2026. The nomination period opens on May 1st, 2026 and runs until August 21st at 2 p.m. And just to define that clearly, the nomination period is the window of time during which you are legally permitted to file your nomination to run for office. Nomination day, August 21st, is the firm deadline, and I want to emphasize firm deadline, to submit or withdraw your nomination. After that time, no new nominations can be accepted. Your campaign period begins when you file your nomination and continues until December 31st, 2026, or the date you file your financial statement if that occurs earlier. For third-party advertisers, which will be covered a bit later in this presentation, the campaign period follows a similar structure beginning at registration and ending December 31st, 2026, or upon filing financial documents. One key takeaway here is that you cannot begin fundraising or incurring campaign expenses until your nomination has been filed. I would also like to cover some additional key dates. The voters list will be available to candidates on September 1st, 2026, and final spending limits will be provided by October 1st, 2026. As well, the deadline to register or withdraw as a third-party advertiser is October 23rd, 2026. It is worth noting specifically that September 30th is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, which the city recognizes as a statutory holiday. So just be mindful of that as you're planning your timelines and activities. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Liridana Rafuna, Manager of Elections, Strategic Integration and Policy, who's going to walk you through nomination requirements, eligibility, and third-party advertising in more detail. Thank you. Liridana?
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. Just gonna start that. Okay. My name is Liridana. I'm the Manager of Manager of Elections, Strategic Integration and Policy. This evening, I'll be covering eligibility, nomination. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now? Not much. Let me just move this out of the way. Okay.
And your school teacher.
Okay. How about now? Testing? Testing? A little bit better? Okay. Let's try again. My name is Liridana, Manager of Elections, Strategic Integration and Policy. This evening, we'll be covering eligibility, nomination, and third-party advertising. Starting off with eligibility for municipal council. As set out in Section 29 of the Municipal Elections Act 1996, or the MEA, To run for a position on council, you must be eligible to vote in the City of London. On the day you file your nomination, you must be a Canadian citizen aged 18 or older and qualify as a resident or non-resident elector. You must be an owner or tenant of land in the City of London or the spouse of the owner or tenant. You can run in a ward where you do not live in. You will not be able to vote, however, for yourself in the ward where you don't live in. Having a campaign office or business in a ward where you would not otherwise be eligible to vote does not make you eligible to vote in that ward. Section 30 of the MEA indicates that you cannot work for a municipality and be on its council at the same time. If you are an employee of a municipality and you want to run for office on that municipality's council, you must take a leave of absence. That begins the day you are nominated. If you are elected, you must resign from your job. If you are an employee of a municipality and you want to run for office in a different municipality, you do not have to take a leave of absence or resign. We encourage everyone to please check with your employer to see if there are any policies in place that could affect you. We will now be covering some ineligibility for municipal council. The following are not eligible to be elected as a member of council or to hold as a member of a council. Any person who is not eligible to vote in the municipality, an employee of a municipality who has not taken an unpaid leave of absence and resigned, a judge of any court, an MP, an MPP, or a senator, an inmate serving a sentence in a penal or correctional institution. Moving over to the nomination topic, specifically qualified or qualification at the time of nomination. As set out, Section 29 of the MEA, a person must be eligible to hold office on the day they file their nomination. For example, a person who is 17 years old but will turn 18 before voting day must wait until they have turned 18 to file. A person may be nominated for an office only if, as of the day the person is nominated, they are qualified to hold that office under the act that creates it, and they are not eligible under the Municipal Elections Act 1996 or any other act or otherwise prohibited by law to be nominated or to hold the office. Filing your nomination. Section 33 of the MEA indicates a nomination may be filed between Friday, May 1st, 2026, and any day in the year of the regular election that is before nomination day at a time when the city clerk's office is open, or on a nomination day, Friday, August 21st, 2026, between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. in the elections office located the first floor of City Hall. If the number of nominations filed for an office and certified under Section 35 of the MEA is less than the number of persons to be elected to the office, additional nominations may be filed between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. on the Wednesday following nomination day, which falls on August 26, 2026. Please know that the City of London does not accept electronic filing. You must file your nomination in person. The nomination fee to file for mayor is $200 or to run for mayor, and $100 for all other positions. This fee must be paid in the elections office at the time the candidate hands in their nomination form. The nomination filing fee will be refunded to the candidate if they file their campaign financial statement by the filing deadline. When filing nomination papers, each candidate will be asked to provide identification, such as a driver's license, that will provide proof of identity and qualifying address. We will be covering now endorsement of nomination for council. Sections 33 1.1 of the MEA states that there is a requirement that anyone wishing to run for office on a council must submit the signatures of 25 voters supporting the nomination. Eligible voters may endorse more than one nomination. The individuals providing the signatures will each have to sign a declaration stating that they were eligible to vote in the municipality on the day that they signed the endorsement. If a candidate files a nomination and then changes their mind and decides to run for a different office on the same council, they are not required to submit new signatures. We kindly encourage that you please remind people that are endorsing your nomination to remember that these signatures and this information is public and available for viewing of anybody in the clerk's office during the time when the office is open. Nomination withdrawal. As set out, Section 36 of the MEA. If a candidate decides to withdraw their nomination, they must notify the clerk in writing by the close of nominations. If a candidate withdraws their nomination, they must still file a campaign financial statement covering all the financial transactions they made during their campaign. The withdrawn candidate is entitled to have the nomination fee refunded by the clerk if they file their campaign financial statement by the filing deadline. Withdrawn candidates must file a financial statement even if they do not accept any contributions or incur any expenses. Section 35 of the MEA sets out the examination of nominations. The nomination shall be in the prescribed form. In the case of a nomination for an office on a council, be endorsed by 25 signatures and be accompanied by a prescribed declaration by each of the persons endorsing the nomination. Be accompanied by a declaration of qualification in the prescribed form, signed by the person being nominated, and be accompanied by the prescribed nomination filing fee. By 4 p.m. on Monday, August 24, 2026, the clerk shall examine each nomination that has been filed in accordance with the Act. Section 35(3) of the MEA indicates rejection of nomination, which under the Act, the clerk is required to reject or certify nominations of candidates. The clerk may consider the following criteria in the decision to reject or certify individual nominations. The candidate has refused or declined to provide proof of qualification or identification suitable to the clerk. The candidate does not satisfy subsection 29(1) of the MEA. The nomination form is not complete in its entirety, or the prescribed filing fee has not been paid, or otherwise disqualified from holding office under the Act. There may be other circumstances in which a candidate is disqualified from being nominated or elected other than those identified above. It is the responsibility of each candidate to ensure that they are not disqualified from being nominated for office. We will now move over to third-party advertising. Section 88.4 of the MEA indicates that a third-party advertisement is a message in any medium, billboard, newspaper, radio that supports or opposes a candidate or a yes or no vote on a question on the ballot. Advertising that does not cost money to post or broadcast, such as comments made on social media, will not be considered to be third-party advertising. Third-party advertising is separate from any candidate's campaign and must be done independently from a candidate. Third-party advertisers who want to spend money on advertisements during the election must register with the municipal clerk and must file a financial statement. Who can register as a third-party advertiser? Section 88.6 of the MEA lists out individuals, corporations, and unions that are in Ontario can register as a third-party advertisers and can also make contributions to third-party advertisers. Third-party advertisers will need to register with the municipality where they want to advertise. If they want to advertise in more than one municipality, they have to register in each one. The registration must be filed in the prescribed form and must include a declaration of qualification signed by the individual or by the representative of the corporation trade union, as the case may be. The clerk shall examine each notice of registration that has been filed to determine whether the individual, corporation, or trade union is qualified to be registered and that the notice of registration complies with the MEA. The ineligibility of third-party advertisers is set out in section 88.6 of the MEA that lists a candidate whose nomination has been filed under section 33 of the MEA, a federal political party registered under the Canada Elections Act or any federal constituency association, or registered candidate at a federal election endorsed by that party, a provincial political party, constituency association, registered candidate or leadership contestant registered under the Elections Finances Act, or the Crown in the Right of Canada or Ontario, a municipality or local board. If you want to end your advertising campaign before voting day, you can withdraw your registration by notifying the clerk in writing. The deadline to withdraw your registration is the Friday before voting day for a regular election, which would fall on Friday, October 23rd, 2026. And that is the last day the clerk's office is open prior to voting day for a by-election. Some registration dates for third-party advertising. Section 88.6 of the MEA sets out that registrations can be accepted by the clerk or designate between the first day for filing nominations, which is Friday, May 1st, 2026, to Friday, October 23rd, 2026, at a time when the clerk's office is open. There is no registration fee for third-party advertising. Registration allows a third-party advertiser to promote or oppose any candidate that the voters in the municipality can vote for. On the date the clerk certifies the notice of registration, the individual, corporation, or trade union is a registered third party for the election. Third-party advertising must be done independently of candidates who are not able to direct a third-party advertiser. Candidates are not able to register as third-party advertisers. Third-party advertising restricted period begins on the earliest day that an individual, corporation, or trade union is permitted to file a notice of registration as a registered third party in relation to the election, which would be Friday, May 1st, 2026, and it ends at the close of voting day on voting day, Monday, October 26, 2026. No individual, corporation, or trade union shall incur expenses for a third-party advertisement that appears during the restricted period for third-party advertisements, unless the individual, corporation, or trade union has registered as a third-party advertiser with a municipality when the expenses are incurred and the advertisement appears. The campaign period for third-party advertising is stated in section 88.28 of the MEA, which begins on the day in which the individual, corporation, or trade union is registered as a registered third party in relation to the election in the municipality and ends on December 31st, 2026, in the case of a regular election. Some mandatory information related to third-party advertising is set out in section 88.5 of the MEA, and it includes that third-party advertising shall cause no registered third party shall cause a third-party advertisement to appear during the restricted period unless the advertisement contains the following information: the name of the registered third party, the municipality where the registered third party is registered, a telephone number, mailing address, or email address at which the registered third party may be contacted regarding the advertisement. That brings me to the end of my presentation. For inquiries, please know that the elections office is available to help point you in the direction of resources. We cannot provide advice in campaign finances. Individuals are responsible for ensuring compliance with the Municipal Elections Act 1996. Independent legal advice is recommended. The Act and all related regulations are available online for you. And here's the contact information to the elections office. Oh.
Thank you, Loredana. Appreciate it. We do have a scheduled break, but we're a bit ahead of schedule, so we're going to do the sign. Everyone can hear me all right at the back? Okay. We're we're going to do the bylaw presentation first, and then we'll take the break. So Wade Jeffrey and his team are here from Municipal Compliance, and they're going to talk about the election sign bylaw and a simplified guide to election signs. Wade? Wherever you want. Yep. And we do have Amanda online, and Wade is here in person, and Christina as well. Yep. Go ahead up there. Make sure the mic's close, Wade.
Yep, we're good. Everybody can hear me okay at the back? Yep, thumbs up, perfect. Okay, thank you. Virtually is in attendance is my director, Amanda Pfeffer. But I'll be doing the overview of the election sign bylaw regulations and information around that. And I also have my colleague Christine Jarvis here who will speak. Sorry, I need to speak louder. Okay, close to the mic. I'm going to raise the mic. Oh, the panel. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't have one of these fancy desks in my office, so that's perfect. Okay. How is that? Is that better? Okay. As I was saying, I do have my colleague Christine Jarvis here who will also provide some information and some more common sort of trends and violations observed during past election periods. So she'll speak on that and help answer any questions that anybody has. So don't have a fancy PowerPoint presentation. It's all by word of mouth here. And so if you want to just grab your pen to jot down anything that I have to say, that would be great. But I will point you to the city website. And if you are in the main page and go into the search engine and just type in election sign bylaw, it will take you to a link that will give you all the do's and don'ts and regulations around that bylaw. So the purpose of this presentation is really to give a summary to clarify and explain some of the more commonalities within the bylaw that some may not be familiar with. So things like election sign placement, where they can be placed and can't be placed, key restrictions around the bylaw, timing rules for installation and removal of the signs, enforcement expectation and procedures around the bylaw regulations, as well as common issues observed during election periods, which I had mentioned Christine will touch on later. So general restrictions on election signs. Signs cannot be illuminated. Maximum surface area for these signs must be 6 square meter maximum. There are restrictions, or sorry, these restrictions rather do not apply to any signs that are on campaign offices though. So keep that in mind. That is the only exemption with respect to illumination and size. With respect to those exemptions, you do need to have written permission from the property owner for exceeding those regulations. With respect to safety requirements, we're key on safety. So making sure pedestrian safety is paramount, vehicular traffic safety is paramount, and ensuring that no signs are placed within city maintenance operations. With respect to placement rules, signs may only be placed in the wards where the candidates are running. Near ward boundaries, signs must be placed within the ward or within a 50-meter distance of the boundary, if that makes sense. With respect to voting places, no signs are permitted on any of the premises used as a voting place. And examples, schools, libraries, malls, places of worship, the entire property is considered a voting place. So not just the front yard or a side yard or an exterior yard. It is the entire property that is considered a voting place. So keep that in mind. The use of city logos. Signs cannot include city logos or trademarks that are owned or licensed by the city. With respect to prohibited locations, first and foremost, city property and parks. Signs are not permitted in public parks or on city-owned or city-occupied property. Boulevards beside parks, not permitted. Those signs are prohibited within the boulevards, along or beside a city park. Road-related restrictions. Signs may not be placed on or over a roadway or a sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the roadway, and areas such as medians, roundabouts, or between two roads. Other restrictions with respect to placement of signs, not to be attached to utility posts, light poles, trees, bus shelters, planters, benches, that sort of, those sort of things, waste receptacles, among others. And again, all of this can be found on the city website if you go to the link to see the election bylaw. Distances and height requirements, setback from roadways. So all signs must be at least 3 meters, so approximately 10 feet from the edge of the roadway. With respect to height limits, within 3 to 8 meters of a roadway, the max height can be 1.8 meters, which is approximately 6 feet. And beyond 8 meters, the max can be 4 meters, which is approximately 13 feet. Spacing between these signs must be at minimum of 100 meters apart, so just over 325 feet from another sign of the same candidate. With respect to timing rules, when signs can and can't be installed for municipal elections, signs cannot be placed earlier than nomination day. The exception of this is when, and it was noted earlier, on campaign offices or private property, signs may be placed once nomination papers are filed. So that's a key note to remember. Removal deadline. So after the election is completed, signs must be removed within 72 hours of the voting day. With respect to enforcement expectations, we are heavy on education first. So we are focused on safety first and consistent impartial enforcement approach. So we will give education and warnings on minor violations or infractions, especially first-time minor violations. However, immediate removal of signs will happen if they cause a safety concern. So again, view obstruction, whether it be a corner visibility issue or a driveway visibility issue, anything that's blocking a visibility that's creating a safe or unsafe condition rather, we will immediately remove them. We do not need to give notice to the candidate when we do remove those as well. Prohibited areas for removal include parks, medians, sidewalks, and voting places, as I mentioned. And for retrieval of signs removed by the city, there are administrative fees associated with that. Escalated enforcement can happen for repeat offenders and deliberate non-compliance with the regulations of this bylaw. So that's a general overview. Again, I'd point you to the website to go to the link to see the bylaw in full. We will certainly take any type of questions or inquiries through our enforcement@london.ca website, as well as a phone number 519-661-4660. Those general questions and inquiries can be sent our way, as well as any complaints or concerns with a sign that is erected on within the city, rather. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Christine real quick to talk about some of the past common observations that we've seen from violations or concerns in the community during these election periods. And the reason I pass it over to Christine is because she's the one that's out there making sure everything is in compliance with these regulations. So I'll turn it over to Christine.
Hi there. Wade has touched base on just about everything as far as the bylaw goes, but there are a few things that could be useful for you. One is this booklet that you could also find online at london.ca. It's a simplified version of the election signs bylaw and placement. So this is super helpful for your teams, as well as london.ca at our city maps. And that will tell you whether you're next to a park or on city property. You can use the maps is a very helpful tool as well, so that your team's not wasting efforts and putting signs where they shouldn't go that I'm going to remove. So do your best to just follow the bylaws. View obstructions, of course, is number one, that you want to make sure you're keeping safe. Even on private property, those are a problem. So they'll need to be removed if they're causing view obstructions, especially for vehicular traffic. Voting locations, yes, on voting days, like early voting and voting day, or election day, those signs need to be removed. So they can be outside the mall as long as it's not an election day or voting day, right? Be careful of placing them outside of condo corps. You have to have the permission of the property owners. It's one thing if you're placing them and have the agreement of the property owners within the condo corporation and whatever their agreement is. But be careful about that, and definitely not between sidewalks and roadways, please. There are many that get placed between those. Make sure they're on the other side of the sidewalk. And I think that's all. And parks, make sure you're not next to a park.
Great. Thanks, Christine. I think the main message here for the bylaw, everyone loves bylaws and enforcing bylaws. Safety is paramount. It's key. So we want to make sure that these signs are installed safely and legally and not to disadvantage any campaign. We want to apply the same standards to every candidate and maintain fairness. Any sign that poses a safety risk will be removed immediately, just to reiterate that. And please make sure volunteers are familiar with the placement guidelines to prevent unnecessary removals from our area. And again, if you're uncertain about whether a location is permitted or not, please again, feel free to reach out at any time to us through our channels of email or phone that were provided earlier. And we're happy to answer any of those questions. So thanks for your time.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is, I see your hand up. We're gonna kind of sidetrack a little bit here. So we can let the municipal compliance folks go. They don't have much to do with the rest of the presentation. If you have a question specific to the signs, this presentation, we're gonna do those right now. So for those that have questions, don't fight over it. Please use the mic at the podium. And we'll do one here first. I do have one online as well. So just step up to the podium, please, so people online can hear you, and hit the button.
Oh, this one. Just a question about the 100 meters between signs. Is that contiguous land, or does that does that apply to four corners of an intersection? Sorry.
So that I measure on continuous land. I do not when it comes to intersections. I'm not putting myself there. So I leave intersections alone.
So because this is for mayor and for councillors, is a billboard a sign? So if I buy a billboard to advertise my I'm running for X, is that a sign or not? If it is, I think that would be above the size rules you have there, A. And B, a lot of billboards in town are now electronic. So does that disqualify from having an electronic billboard?
Okay, so if you have those booklets at the back or online, I think it's page 2. It talks about general restrictions. Election sign surface cannot be greater than 6 square meters, but this does not apply to an election sign promoting a candidate or campaign office or a billboard. So, yes.
Are there any other questions in person about the sign, only the sign questions? You can use your mic that's right in front of you.
I apologize if this was covered, but the 100-meter rule doesn't apply to individual residences, right? Okay, thank you.
Again, if you do have a question online, you can put it in the Q&A on the bottom. I do have one question online. I believe it was touched on, but we'll cover it again. Are city colors allowed on the signs? Example, the specific shade of green that London uses.
Yeah, the election sign bylaw does not address that, but there is a corporate identity policy. That would be through the communications department and Andrew here, but The election sign bylaw doesn't address that. It's just the logo.
Yeah, I would, we can certainly answer that if you submit it through elections@london.ca. We can probably get you a better answer to that question. I do know we have what they call hex tones, and those are the specific color shades. And if that's covered, then I would probably suggest no. But we, again, can get you a more definite answer on that. Any other questions? Come on up, sir, to the podium, and then just hit the button at the mic.
Going back to digital signs, it's two type of digital signs in town: third party and first party. Does first party can be used to boost my campaign?
Sorry, could you clarify that question? See, these mics, this is good practice. If you get elected, you'll be using these mics on a weekly basis. Could you third-party signs versus first-party signs? So a first-party sign would be a candidate sign, and it would follow these rules. And a third-party sign would be something that a corporation is purchasing to promote a candidate. And it would also apply by this election sign bylaw as well.
According to the city of sign bylaw, first party not allowed to do any type of advertising which is not running in the same address or location. So how that gonna apply the city bylaw with the election bylaw according to the signs? I'm planning, I have bunch of signs in town. I would like to use it on my campaign, but they are not billboard. They are just given to you simple McDonald's sign, electronic sign, or any other dealership or any type of first party sign can be used in my campaign as well as third party billboard, whether they don't fit even the sign. But in here it says illuminated sign, doesn't mean it's an electronic sign.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, perhaps a business or something wants to promote you as a candidate, and they're going to put your name on their sign. Is that correct? Okay. So the election signs cannot be illuminated, but there's an X there because there's section 2.4 where that clause does not apply to election signs promoting a candidate or campaign office or a billboard. So if you just added your name to McDonald's, say, vote for Joe Smith, it wouldn't apply to this. Yeah, yes.
When you said does not apply, it means I can or I cannot. And it's confused. The section 2.1 of the, you're referring to a sign by law or election by law? Because 2.1 in a sign by law, it's related to the brightness of the sign.
We're going to have to probably clarify more off to the side with maybe Wade, just to get a specific answer to your question, if that's okay. And then if not, we can obviously look into it and get back to you. But Wade, during our break, we're about to take one. I do have a couple of more questions online. Can signs be in other areas of the city if you're running for a ward that's not in, I'm assuming, your jurisdiction? Can you have a campaign sign that's not in your ward? I believe that's asking.
So signs should be in your ward or within 50 meters of the boundary line.
Okay. And I have one here. What about a moving sign on a truck or trailer? We found a new one. While I look at that one, if your campaign office is outside your ward, can you place signs at your office? The answer to that is yes.
Also, as I'm removing signs daily, the signs at the end of the day are taken to our AJ Tyler Bathurst yard at 663 Bathurst, and there's a bin outside of our security gate that you can go, or your team volunteers can go and pick up. Please be respectful of the other candidates' signs that are in there as well, and retrieve your signs.
We're gonna have to look more into the moving signs one. We'll either get to it at the end, or you can inquire via email. At this time, we're going to take a break, and it's going to be 15 minutes till 7 o'clock. And then we'll gather back here if you're going to be a couple minutes early. And yeah, there's some food and water and such at the back. And then we have a few more presentations after the break. Evelina, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. We can hear you fine. All right, go ahead.
So thank you. Welcome back from your break. I'm going to go over the roles and responsibilities of a city councillor. Donna. Next slide. Thank you. So the role of council is clearly set out in the Municipal Act. At a high level, council is expected to represent the public and consider the overall well-being and interests of the municipality. That includes developing and evaluating policies and programs. So it's not just about approving things, but actively shaping the direction of the municipality. Council is also responsible for deciding which services the municipality provides, which is a pretty fundamental piece of governance. Another key role is making sure that once decisions are made, there are proper administrative policies and procedures in place to actually carry those decisions out. There's also a strong accountability piece. Council has to ensure transparency in how the municipality operates, including oversight of senior management. And of course, maintaining the financial integrity of the municipality is a core responsibility. Finally, council has to carry out any other duties assigned under any other legislation. In practice, all of this is generally carried out through participation in council and standing committee meetings, as well as involvement with agencies, boards, and commissions. And just as importantly, through regular interaction and consultations with constituents and the public. Next slide. Now turning to the role of the head of council, this is also set out in the Municipal Act. First and foremost, the head of council acts as the chief executive officer of the municipality. They're also responsible for presiding over council meetings, so making sure business is carried out efficiently and effectively, keeping things moving and on track. A big part of the role is providing leadership to council, helping set direction and guide decisions. There's also responsibility to bring forward information and recommendations to council, particularly where it relates to council's role in ensuring accountability and transparency, and overseeing the administration of the municipality. The head of council also represents the municipality at official functions, so acting as the public-facing representative of the city. And finally, they carry out any other duties assigned under the Municipal Act or any other legislation. With the introduction of strong mayor powers, the role of the head of council changes quite a bit. In terms of decision-making, the mayor can appoint the chief administrative officer, hire certain division heads, and even reorganize parts of the municipal administration, with the exception of statutory officers. From a governance perspective, the mayor can establish committees of council, assign what they do, and appoint the chairs and vice chairs. There's also a connection to provincial priorities. The mayor is able to bring forward matters or propose bylaws that support things like housing or infrastructure goals set by the province. On the legislative side, the mayor has the authority to veto certain bylaws and also plays a central role in preparing and proposing the municipal budget, although council still has the ability to amend or override the budget. With these expanded powers comes increased accountability. Decisions made under strong mayor powers have to be documented and publicly disclosed. Now, turning to council meetings, this is really where formal municipal decision-making happens. Council meetings are designed to ensure transparency, accountability, and proper record-keeping in how decisions are made. At the core, council exercises its authority through bylaws, which are formally passed during these meetings. A key principle here is transparency. Meetings must be open to the public, with only a few limited exceptions, like legal matters, personnel issues, or property-related discussions. Each municipality also has what's called a procedure bylaw. So that sets out how meetings are called, how they're run, and how notice is provided to the public. The head of council chairs the meetings, keeping things orderly and making sure the established procedures are followed. A lot of the detailed work happens at the standing committee level. They review issues more closely and then bring forward the recommendations for council to make the final decision. And there's also an important record-keeping role. The city clerk documents all resolutions, decisions, and proceedings, whether the meeting is open or closed, and does so without commentary. Now, looking at the standing committee structure, the City of London operates under a standing committee governance structure. So what that means is that committees focus on specific subject areas. They review the matters in detail and then make recommendations up to council for final decisions. Committee appointments are made annually, typically in November, ahead of the new meeting cycle that begins in December. So for example, the first round of committee member selections will go through the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee in mid-November and then be confirmed by council later that month. In terms of timing, regular council meetings are usually held on Tuesdays, once or twice a month at 1 p.m. We currently have 4 main standing committees. First, the Community and Protective Services Committee. They typically meet on select Mondays at 1 p.m. and they're made up of 5 council members, with the mayor being an ex officio member. Their focus includes things like animal services, housing, childcare, Ontario Works, culture, parks, neighborhood issues, and public safety. Next is the Infrastructure and Corporate Services Committee. They also meet on select Mondays at 1 p.m. with a similar composition. This committee covers a broad range, transportation and traffic, roads and infrastructure, water and wastewater, as well as internal services like finance, human resources, legal, legislative services, and major public facilities. Then there's the Planning and Environment Committee. They meet on select Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Their work focuses on land use planning, development approvals, zoning, urban design, and environmental matters, forestry, and heritage, both built and natural. Finally, the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee. This one includes all members of council, and they also meet on select Tuesdays. This committee deals with broader citywide issues, things like strategic plans, major corporate initiatives, and governance. It also oversees corporations with shared capital, so like London Hydro and London Middlesex Housing. Overall, this structure allows council to manage complex issues more effectively by doing the detailed work at committee before bringing items forward for final decision at council. And for anyone looking to follow along, the full council and committee calendar, including meeting dates and times, is available on our website. In addition to the standing committees, council has other committees that meet less frequently. Members appointed to these committees serve a full 4-year term. So the first committee member selection process will take place in November, with council considering the appointments at its meeting later that month. The audit committee meets 4 times per year on Wednesdays at noon. It is composed of 4 council members, with the mayor serving as an ex officio member and includes 1 external member. The audit committee reports directly to council, not through a standing committee, and oversees all audit matters. Its role is to evaluate internal and external services to ensure that audits are effective, independent, and complementary. The Dearness Home Committee of Management meets 4 times per year on Tuesdays at 9:30 a.m. and is composed of 5 council members. This committee operates in accordance with legislation, which provides that council appoint a committee of management to oversee their municipal home. The Governance Working Group meets as required, usually at 10 a.m., and its membership is flexible depending on the needs of the working group. The governance working group provides recommendations on governance-related matters that have been generally referred to it, reporting to council through the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee. And finally, the Budget Committee is formed by mayoral decision and is presided over by the Budget Chair, also appointed by the mayor via mayoral decision. Committee reports to Municipal Council and works closely with civic administration to facilitate a transparent and inclusive budgeting process. So while these committees meet less regularly than the standing committees, they play a vital role in supporting council's work, ensuring oversight, compliance, and effective governance in their specialized areas. A committee chair leads the work of a standing committee by presiding over meetings, guiding discussions, and ensuring that the committee's work aligns with its mandate and with council's priorities. The chair is responsible for maintaining order and fairness during deliberations and may play a role in shaping the committee's recommendations, which are ultimately reported to council for a final decision. Under the Strong Mayor framework, the mayor has the authority to create committees of council, assign their functions, and appoint the chairs and vice chairs. Appointments for committee chairs and vice chairs are made through a formal mayoral decision, which is then forwarded to council for consideration and approval through the Strategic Priorities and Policy Committee, or SPPC. City of London's Council Procedure Bylaw, Bylaw A61, sets out the rules of order and procedure for meetings of council and its standing committees. So it specifies how agendas are prepared, how notices of meetings are given, how debates are conducted, how votes are taken and recorded, how closed sessions are handled, and how the head of council and committee chairs preside over the meetings. There are also several local bodies in the form of agencies, boards, and commissions that are involved in the provision of services or are otherwise linked to the City of London. Municipal council is required to appoint council members to these ABCs. And while ABCs are often subject to similar rules as council, each board must be considered on its own terms and responsibilities. The first selection process for committee members will take place in November, with council considering the appointments again later that month. It's also important to note that there are a number of public appointments to these bodies that council will need to review and consider during that process as well. So a couple examples of ABCs include the Argyle BIA Board of Management, the Covenant Garden Market, the Hamilton Road BIA, and RBC Place. So at the City of London, the mayor selects a deputy mayor to assist with their duties and act in their place when the mayor is absent or chooses not to act. This appointment is made through a mayoral decision confirmed by council and enacted by bylaw. The deputy mayor's responsibilities include basically maintaining business continuity in the mayor's absence, representing the city at meetings and events, and participating on committees and boards. The mayor also determines which powers or duties to delegate to the deputy mayor and can adjust that or those duties at any time during the term. In addition, the mayor selects a budget chair through a mayoral decision. The process for this appointment, along with the role itself, will be outlined in a new appointment of deputy mayor and budget chair policy. Council has directed that both these positions receive additional compensation equal to 8% of the base annual councillor salary, which will also be formalized in policy. So expense accounts. So each councillor is provided with an annual expense account of $13,500 to support their preferences in carrying out their duties. In an election year, this amount is prorated for both incoming and outgoing councillors. Expenditures from these accounts are published quarterly on the city's website to ensure transparency. Allowable expenses under the policy generally include attendance at conferences, office supplies, and computer equipment beyond what is corporately provided, advertising within an annual limit, costs associated with ward, neighborhood, or constituent meetings, contracting temporary or part-time office assistants, tickets for community events, and vehicle allowance or mileage reimbursements. And again, at council's direction, individual councilor expense accounts are posted online on a quarterly basis. At the City of London, we have a policy that sets out the technology equipment and software provided to councillors to support their work. Each member is provided with one corporate standard laptop, which includes a docking station, monitor, carrying case, keyboard, mouse, and wired headset. They also receive one corporate standard tablet with a protective case and one standard printer. Members are also provided with corporate standard software licenses, including Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Office, along with access to any other software identified as essential to the business of the city, such as our electronic agenda management software that you'd be using during committee and council meetings. So this does not include specialized corporate software that would not be accessible to the general public. Each councillor is also issued a corporate standard cell phone, which is currently an iPhone, along with a protective case. And in addition, an annual stipend is provided as part of the councillor's existing expense allocation for internet service at their home office. At the City of London, the councillor's office support staff report through the supervisor of the councillor's office to the manager of legislative services. The team is composed of the supervisor and 6 coordinators, all of whom are employees of the corporation. The supervisor is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the office and providing a range of confidential administrative support to councillors, including direct support to the deputy mayor. The 6 coordinators handle a broad range of administrative, constituency, and customer service tasks for the councillors. Their responsibilities include managing routine correspondence and scheduling, assessing community-related issues, and coordinating appropriate responses and processing expense accounts. So some other items to consider. The councillor's office is located on the 3rd floor at City Hall. A reception area in the councillor's office allows residents, guests, and staff to check in for meetings or to have concerns forwarded to councillors. Each councillor is provided with a private office located behind the general reception area and their support staff. Offices come furnished with a standard desk, chair, filing cabinet, some chairs for guests, and a desk phone. Security is an important consideration for both council and staff, as well as for city property. Each councillor receives a swipe card that provides access to the councillor's office, the exterior doors of City Hall after hours, council chambers, elevators to the floors, other floors of City Hall, such as cafe, and the basement parking lot. Each councillor also receives a key to lock and unlock their office. Outside the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., Monday to Friday, all exterior doors of City Hall are locked and access is only possible with the swipe card. So councillors entering City Hall outside of those normal hours are asked to sign in and out at the Service London counter in the lobby, or they're asked to notify corporate security of their presence in the building from their office. Mayor's office is also located within City Hall, and similar access and support procedures apply. Meeting packages, City Council and Standing Committee meetings utilize an electronic agenda and voting system. Councillors are required to log on to a corporate provided terminal for voting, with all votes being recorded in the official meeting record. Agenda packages are prepared by the City Clerk's office and circulated electronically to council members 1 day before posting publicly on the City of London website. At the beginning of the 2026-2030 council term, 4 days of council orientation are planned for both new and returning members. These full day sessions begin at 9:30 a.m. and are on the following dates: November 5th and 6th, and the following week on November 12th and 13th. Additional training opportunities will be available in areas such as media relations, municipal legislation, and technology. Meals for counselors are available at the top of the Hall Cafe on the 12th floor of City Hall. That cafe is generally open 8:30 a.m. to about 1:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. They offer full meals, sandwiches, soups, and desserts, and coffee, of course. Lunch is provided to counselors on standing committee days, and in some instances, snacks or dinner may be provided for evening meetings. These meals are considered a taxable benefit. Government jurisdiction. So it's important to understand the appropriate levels of government in order to contact for various concerns. Federal responsibilities include matters such as the Canadian Pension Plan, citizenships, and passports. Provincial responsibilities include healthcare, OHIP, Ontario Works, etc. Municipal responsibilities include bylaw enforcement, garbage and recycling, property standards, zoning, and so on. So understanding these distinctions can help counselors direct residents to the correct resources, and counselor's office support staff, of course, will assist with navigating resident inquiries. Finally, counselors are provided with a proximity card for paid parking at City Hall. That's located in the basement level parking lot. Each counselor is assigned a dedicated parking space for the term of office. And all of this information that we've gone over is contained in the guide and will be made available online post-session. And that's all from me, and I'll hand it back over to Sarah.
I'm not Sarah. But we're just getting the camera back on. Thank you, Evelina. Appreciate it. I am going to turn it over to Sarah. Just a quick reminder that questions online, you can use the Q&A. The Q&A will happen after this this presentation from Sarah, Sarah Corman, who's the Deputy City Clerk, and she's going to cover campaign finance.
I saved the exciting stuff for last. So my name's Sarah Corman. I'm the other Deputy City Clerk here with the City of London. So I'm reviewing campaign finance and the campaign finance rules under the Municipal Elections Act, which we will call in this presentation the MEA. This is important for candidates because it ensures fairness, transparency, and compliance in the election. Most importantly to you, failure to follow campaign finance rules can lead to compliance audits, penalties or fines under the Act, and if elected, you could potentially be removed from office. These slides are provided by the Elections Office for convenience only. They should not be considered legal advice, and they're not meant to replace legislation. For specific information, please consult the MEA, the Municipal Elections Act, and that can be found online. And we have a link here. We'll later provide this online. And as specific facts and circumstances are variable, candidates should always obtain their own legal advice or an professional accounting advice when dealing with campaign finance. This is probably one of the most common questions we get in the Elections Office is around campaign finance because it is quite complicated. While we're happy to point you in the right direction, we cannot provide you legal advice. So we'll point you to the correct legislation and to the guides. There is a guide that the province will be producing. They just, we're waiting on that yet. It usually comes out in April of the election year. And we will provide it to you in your nomination packets when you come. But I strongly recommend you keep that close by because it's very plain language and it gets you to the right place when dealing with expenses, donations, that type of thing. So campaign finance looks at 5 key areas. You have your campaign contributions, you have campaign expenses, and then at the end of your campaign, you're required to file a financial statement summarizing all of these activities. If There's also compliance audits that can happen when we post your financial statements online, as well as a report that the clerk will prepare where we review all the contributions made to all candidates in the election. And we'll also review in this presentation the offenses, penalties, and enforcement under the Act. So what are campaign contributions? So they're not just money, they're money that's donated to you, but they're also goods and service that are given to you for use in your campaign. So that includes money and goods that you might contribute to yourself. You can only collect contributions once you file your nomination period. Once you file your nomination papers, it has to be within the campaign period for you to collect any money. So some examples of campaign contributions. So a discount on a good or service for your campaign. It's the difference between the fair market value and what you were charged is the contribution. So a professional gives you campaign service for free. You look at the market value of the service, that is the contribution. Tickets for a fundraising event, the cost of the ticket's considered a contribution. There's actually a special spot in the financial statement for you to fill this stuff out. And this one's interesting, but the inventory of leftover election signs that you wish to use again, the current market value of those signs is a contribution that you make to your campaign. That's important. So there's more specific examples, and you should check the Elections Act, the MEA, and they will give you some pretty good examples of contributions. So what do you need to know? You're probably going to hear this about 100 times during my presentation, but you can only accept contributions once you file your nomination papers with the clerk. So once you file those nomination papers and you're ready to collect contributions, any contribution, including to yourself, you have to open a bank account with a financial institution. There are some contribution limits that you need to be aware of. And there are rules on who can contribute to your campaign and who cannot contribute to your campaign. And a really important thing is you have to keep detailed records, and that includes receipts for all your contributors. So first, who can make, oh, do you have a question? We can take questions at the end. I promise I won't be long. Who can make contributions? So anyone who lives in Ontario, someone who normally resides in Ontario, and of course yourself and your spouse can make a contribution. Who can't? This surprises some people. Clubs, association, ratepayer groups, corporations, trade unions, an individual who doesn't live in Ontario, federal, provincial, political parties, their constituency associations, registered candidate in a federal or provincial election, and of course, a federal, provincial, or municipality or school board can't make a contribution. So we talked about some of the limits. So these are contribution limits. So an individual can contribute up to $1,200 to your campaign. So that same individual can contribute a maximum of $5,000 to candidates running for the City of London Council. So they can't exceed, $5,000. So they couldn't contribute. There's 15 people running. They have 15 candidates they want to contribute. They can't contribute that maximum to all of them. They have to take that $5,000 and divide it out. So you have a responsibility to inform contributors of their maximums. A simple way to do this would maybe to include it on the contribution receipts that you're providing them. Cash contributions, you're only allowed to accept up to $25 in cash. Contributions over $25 must be made in a traceable form. So we're talking checks, debit, credit, or electronic transfer, as long as you can show the trace to your campaign account. So there's also the limits that you yourself can contribute or your spouse. So there's a legislated formula that we've put up here. And how much can you contribute? So we will tell you this when you file your nomination papers. We'll give you an estimate, and we base that estimate on the last election's voters list. So we use this formula and we will give you that. So it's important that there is a maximum cap to this. So for instance, it's $25,000. So say you're running for mayor, that could easily that formula there could get you easily over 25,000, but it caps out at 25,000. All contributions made by yourself to your own campaign count toward this limit. So what does that include? So that's money that you contribute directly to your campaign, but it also is value of goods and services that you provide your campaign. And the value of inventory from a previous election also counts towards that maximum. So an example here would be your election signs from a previous campaign. So contribution receipts, these are important. You must issue a receipt for every contribution you receive above $25. It will show the name of the person, the date, and the value. You're required to list the names and address of every contributor that gives you more than $100 on your financial statement. Now, it's very important that financial statement, once we receive it here at the office, we post it online on our website. You can go now and look at last election's financial statements. We have them on the election website. So it's also good to let your contributors know that if they're giving you over $100, that their name and address could be posted or will be posted publicly on our website. And another thing that's different from other levels of government is that contribution receipts are not tax receipts. So contributions to a municipal council candidate are not credited against federal and provincial federal income taxes. So one thing to take from this is that you're responsible for keeping records of your financial activities related to your campaign. The MEA doesn't have a specific counting system that you use, but we recommend that you consult an auditor or an accountant early in your campaign to make sure that you're using a bookkeeping method that matches your style of campaign, and that will also ultimately allow you to report accurately into your financial statement. So take a look at those candidate financial statements and make sure that you're keeping records of all the information included on that statement. Again, we get the forms from the province. So these are your nomination forms, your endorsement forms, as well as your financial statements. The new forms for 2026 have not been released yet from the province. We suspect that will be again in April, and we will have them ready here in the elections office. I believe we also post them online. But if you come into the elections office, we will give you a whole packet with a lot of the information you're getting tonight and an additional information and forms that you'll need for your campaign. So we talked about contributions. Now we have expenses. So expenses are the costs that you incur, or that a person such as your campaign manager acting on your behalf may incur. So the first expense that you're going to come into when you're running for office is your nomination fee. The nomination fee is a personal expense. You're not required to, it's not considered a campaign expense. You're not required to put it on your financial statement. When you're paying expenses, everything has to be done from your campaign account. So if you have an expense, you must have a campaign bank account with a financial institution. If you use a credit card, I'm taking this from the guide from 2022. If you use a credit card, you have to keep clear records that show the expense being reimbursed from the campaign account, and make sure that's documented thoroughly in case you're audited. So campaign expenses, make sure that all applicable taxes are included when you put your expenses together on the financial statement. Again, expenses can only be incurred during your campaign period. So you can't be incurring any expenses until you file your nominations with the city clerk's office. So there are some exceptions to some expenses. So costs related to preparing an auditor's report can be incurred after your campaign period ends. So your campaign period starts, let's say you file your nomination papers on May 1st. The campaign will go to December 31st, and then it wraps up. You don't have to file your financial statements until March of 2027. So in that time, you may find that you've spent or brought in more than $10,000 and you need to hire an auditor. That cost there can happen outside the campaign period. But they still have to be reported on the financial statement. So contributions of goods and services are also considered campaign expenses. So they should be recorded as if the contributor gave you money and you use that money to purchase goods and service. Limits. There's limits to your campaign expenses as well. There's 2 spending limits. The first one is a general campaign limit, and the second one is a separate limit for post-election events like parties or appreciation or activities. So there is a formula again for the clerk's office to calculate this. And the general spending limit is based on the number of eligible electors for the office you're running in. So again, when you file your nomination, we will provide an estimated general spending limit based on the electors from the last election. By September 30th or October 1st, we will provide you a final general spending limit based on the number of electors on the current voters list. So this is where it's important because we have had a ward boundary review. So wards have shifted. You'll be running in the new wards. So if your initial estimate, say, is higher than the one we give you in September, the one that's higher is the final spending limit. Before any financial activity happens with your campaign, make sure that you file your nomination papers. I told you I'm going to say it a lot. You must open a campaign bank account, and no contributions can be accepted and no expenses incurred until that account is open. So there are few expenses that are not subject to that limit, and they're listed up here. So expenses to holding a fundraising event or activity, expenses related to a recount, expenses related to a court action for a controverted election, expenses related to a compliance audit, or expenses incurred by a candidate with a disability that are directly related to the candidate's disability and would not have been incurred if not for the election. Audit and accounting fees. Financial statements. So this is how you wrap up your campaign. It's your responsibility as a candidate to file a complete and accurate financial statement on time. You'll actually swear it before a commissioner of oath in our office. The filing deadline is the last Friday in March, which I believe is March 30th, 2027. Or sorry, the last Friday. We say Tuesday. We'll have to fix that. Yes. Yep. Caught it now. So this is important because some people might withdraw their nomination. So you say you started running in Ward 1, but you switched to Ward 2. You'll then have to file financial statements for both of those campaigns. So if you filed nomination papers with the clerk's office, you have to file a financial statement, even if you didn't take in any money, spend any money. So this applies to all candidates. So those who withdrew, some who were not certified. Liridana talked about certification by the clerk. So if you weren't certified by the clerk and your name didn't appear on the ballot, you still filed a nomination paper. You still have to file a financial statement. If you were acclaimed, so that would be great. Best case scenario, no one decides to run against you. You still have to file a financial statement. If you didn't receive any contributions, even if you didn't contribute to yourself or you didn't incur any expenses, you still have to file a financial statement. But there's just a provision that you sign the first page of the financial. You don't have to fill out the rest. If you received any contributions or incurred any expenses, you have to fill out the entire financial statement. This one's important as well. If your campaign contributions, including the ones that you or your spouse made to yourself, or your total expenses exceed $10,000, you need an auditor and an auditor's report with your financial statement. It has to be submitted with your financial statement when you file it with the clerk's office. If you believe that you cannot file your financial statement by the deadline, which is the end of March 2027, you can apply to the Superior Court of Justice before that deadline. If the court grants you an extension to file the nomination, you will be eligible to receive your nomination refund if you file by the date that the court gives you. If you miss the deadline to file, you have a 30-day grace period, but that comes with a $500 fee, and you won't be able to receive your nomination refund back. If you still don't file after the date, the consequences are serious in that you could lose your seat if you're elected and be barred from running in the next election. So your campaign period will end on December 31st, 2026. However, some campaigns may have a deficit, and you can extend your campaign in order to do additional fundraising. So if you want to extend your campaign, contact the elections office because there's an additional form that you have to submit, and you have to submit that before December 31st. And it's basically letting us know that you have a deficit, you're swearing to that, and that you're going to be doing additional fundraising. This doesn't happen very often, and sometimes it can be difficult to go out and do additional fundraising after the campaign period has closed. You'd be campaigning into January, February, and March of the following year, and that could be difficult. So your campaign gets extended until Wednesday, June 30th, 2027. You have to file 2 financial statements. So you have to file for the initial period, and then you have to file a supplemental. And the supplemental financial statement has to be filed by the city clerk by the end of September. Surplus. So this is important as well. At the end of your campaign, if you have any money left over, this is after reimbursing yourself or your spouse, that surplus must be turned over to the city clerk with your financial statement. It's held in trust, and it can only be used for things such as a compliance audit. If it's not used for a compliance audit, then it becomes the property of the municipality. If your expenses are higher than your income, you're in a deficit. You can't carry that deficit over into a future campaign, and it may raise concerns about how those expenses were paid. Especially if personal funds were used, you may go over the allowable limits. So why is your financial statement so important? It's because we have a compliance audit committee. Every municipality in Ontario is required to have a compliance audit committee. So a compliance audit committee is required to be established by the city, and the school boards will also establish their own. So once we post your financial statements online, an eligible elector in the City of London can apply to have the compliance if they can apply if they believe that you haven't followed the rules. They can apply to the committee and ask for a compliance audit of your finances. The City of London posts the decisions and meetings of these decisions and minutes of these meetings online. So if you're interested, you can review the past few elections and some of those minutes and decisions. So also the city clerk, we have an obligation under the Act to review all the contributions reported on all the financial statements and make sure that they comply with the rules. So we're looking for the limits. We're required to prepare a report for this compliance audit committee, and we outline if anyone has given over more than $1,200 to a single candidate or has given over more than $5,000 to multiple candidates. The clerk reports this to the Compliance Audit Committee. The Compliance Audit Committee has a chance to review the report and decide whether or not to initiate court proceedings. So then we get to offenses, penalties, and enforcement. So penalties may apply if you're convicted of an offense. So if that application goes to court, you could be fined up to $25,000. Again, you could be ineligible to vote or run in the next regular election. There could be up to 6 months imprisonment. If you're elected, you could forfeit your office if the judge finds that you committed the offense knowingly. If you're convicted of exceeding a spending limit, you could also be fined the amount of which you exceeded the limit. So these penalties that we've listed are for financial offenses mostly. It is not a comprehensive list of all the offenses and penalties. Please look at the legislation. It's towards the end of the Act, and you can see a complete list of offenses, penalties, and enforcement. So there's 3 contraventions of the Act where penalties apply automatically. This means that we don't need a court or compliance audit is not necessary. What are these 3 situations? They include not filing on time, exceeding your spending limit, or not turning over a surplus. So the result is that you lose your seat and could be barred from running until the next election cycle. Again, we can point you in the right direction. We're not going to give you, if you make inquiries to the elections office, we're not going to be able to answer specific inquiries or provide legal advice, but we can point you in the right direction. Once the province provides these guides, it is very helpful and will help you interpret the legislation.
Any questions? We are at the end. So now it is time for question and answer. We have about 25 minutes left. If anyone wants to ask questions, I'd like to state for a few things before we do. We do have a few online questions in the queue. We'll kind of do rotation on this room. I know there may be 1 or 2 questions in the other committee room and online, so we'll kind of do a rotation that way. Just a reminder right now, and we'll remind you at the end, london.ca/elections is your home for everything election related, so please use that as your resource, and elections@london.ca is the contact for the elections office. For right now, we'll start in this room. Go ahead, sir, if you just want to go up to the podium and turn on the mic. And sorry, I did want to mention one more thing. that the questions that we're asking today be held to what we covered today. I know there's a lot of other questions that could be asked, but please reserve those to maybe an email question afterwards. And let's just stick to the topics that we covered today. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Kamrul Hassan. I have a couple of questions regarding of last presentation. So my first question is when you submitted our nomination papers, so is there record for any financial agent, like as they have to assign for financial agent plus candidate with the bank account? So it's not clear in the description. My question is the financial agent, like as the federal election or something. So we needed the financial agent who is represent to the finance, not a candidate directly, right? So someone is handle the finance in the bank account with the candidate names. So in the cities, is there any separate then they have a financial agent, they can handle the finance, not a candidate. It's not clear in the your description.
So you're asking if there's a financial liaison that can set up something with the financial institution? No, not at the city of, the Municipal Elections Act is very different from Canadian and provincial. It's generally usually a candidate that goes and sets up the account. Usually they take their nomination forms, because we'll give you a copy, like a copy that's been stamped and filed, and they take that to the bank and set it up.
Thank you. So I have a next question. The contribution, someone is contributed the money for $1,200 or maximum is $5,000, whatever their candidate. So is there any tax credit, like if someone is give the $1,200 in the one candidate? So this contributor guy, he got the tax credit for this amount?
So a tax credit? Okay, so the question is related to a tax credit. No, the tax credits do not apply to municipal elections. It's the only election that it doesn't apply to. So there's no income tax deduction. You just give them a receipt and, well, they keep it.
Yeah, I did.
So for those online, the question I think was basically if we could change that so that they could get a tax refund, income tax or property tax refund. Unfortunately, we don't have that capability to change that legislation here at the City of London. It would be up to the provincial government to change the legislation for us. There is the ability to have a contribution rebate program that we could pass by bylaw. The City of London has not done that. Other municipalities have, but the City of London has not done that.
Okay.
I just want to go to the next person because we have a lot of people in the queue, and then we can come back if we have time at the end with your other question. If that's okay. I just want to go to committee room 5. There's sorry, committee room 1 and 2. I believe there's a question in there. Andrea?
How's this? You can hear us now? Sorry about that. All right.
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you. I'm looking at one person.
Hello. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So it's a bit technical question. So if you are using an office and that office is provided to you for free, and if you cannot assign a market value to the space because it would be otherwise unused, the question is how should we report that?
So, thank you. That is an example of a specific question that unfortunately, like the City of London can't provide. That would be legal or accounting advice. So I would suggest with that question that you speak to a lawyer or a professional accountant and how that would be recorded on your financial statement.
We're going to go to one online quickly because it did come up a couple of times. Again, a reminder, if you're online, you can submit your question through the Q&A. Couple people have asked, and I believe we've touched on it, but we'll ask it again. For the 25 nominations in support of a candidate, do they have to be from the ward in which you are running or from anyone within the City of London who has the right to vote?
They do not need to be from the same ward. They do need to be an eligible a voter, and they can live anywhere within the City of London.
Go ahead, sir. We'll get to you next.
This question is in relation to expenses, and it may be a little bit of minutia, but I think it's important. We've had people taken to the Compliance Audit Committee for not expensing internet. Yet we're told at the beginning of this that if you do not incur a cost, you don't have to register as a third party as long as, it's social media and that's internet. Where do you draw the line between incurring a cost? And if somebody's running a small campaign within a ward, do they have to take their internet expenses? And I mean, this has been to, it hasn't been decided, but it's been to the Compliance Audit Committee just recently. So I think you're in a gray area here in terms of how you determine what is incurring a cost and what is not. So I guess to simplify the question is, how do you distinguish between not incurring a cost and not having to register as a third party? And especially when it comes to internet, because there's a cost to everyone. Unless you go to the public library, sorry.
It's a great question. And again, another example of the type of question that we can't give specific answers to because it could result in a compliance audit and be barred from. So I would strongly recommend legal or accounting advice on that one.
Sir?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you keep talking about legal advice. Are there specialists in this, like lawyers that actually handle these affairs? And who are they? Like, how would you know to get a lawyer appropriate for something having to do with City Hall?
I think we have the answer from the person that just popped up on the screen.
Thank you, Andrew. So the Law Society of Ontario does have a line that you can call to obtain references to individuals, either paralegals or lawyers in the area that may be suitable. So that is perhaps one area to start with. Lawyers may have specializations, they may have a generalized practice, so they may be able to assist, but we can't make recommendations from the elections office as to specific lawyers that may be able to assist you.
Go ahead, sir.
I have a question about the fact that a person can give $1,200 to a person and then he willy-nilly goes out and gives a bunch of money to other people and goes over the $5,000 limit. How does that affect my campaign? Good question. Like, how do you control that?
So that is, again, another question that we can't answer, unfortunately, because that would go to compliance audit potentially if they exceed the maximum, which then could take it to, a court decision, not a decision of the city clerk's office.
We'll go to one online, probably a bit more simple. And I did want to mention, we still have our municipal compliance folks here too, in case there were still remaining questions about the signs. Wade and Christine stayed back. That's great. Does the requirements consist of you being 18 to run, being a Canadian citizen, or owning property in London?
Yes. Oh, sorry, and or renting. Yeah.
I believe that's the follow-up question on here because it's from the same person. What consists of a tenant when it comes to the election? Is it anyone who lives in an apartment or even with someone?
I would say either or, because also the MEA does state that a tenant or a spouse within the city.
Any more questions in this room? I have one more online. Is a councillor permitted to use their personal funds to hire an administrative assistant in addition to the support that can be provided through the standard 13,500 council expense allocation?
I'll take that one. Yes, they are. If they choose to use their personal accounts, they can do that in addition to paying that assistant from their expense accounts as well.
Thank you, Evelina. Go ahead, sir.
There we go. My question is in regards to someone who may want to develop a website for my campaign and start working on it ahead of time and say, I'll bill you after you've filed. Is that considered okay?
I would point you to the act. It speaks, it's black and white. It's pretty clear in the act, but that the definition of incurring an expense, just because you're not billed, means you could be incurring an expense. You may want to read up on legislation on that. Michael?
Agreed to what Sarah just indicated. So you may want to think of it in terms of, say, a print shop is preparing signage in advance, yet they're indicating they may not bill you until a certain date. So I would echo the caution just indicated by the Deputy City Clerk.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, a couple more online. Does an eligible elector for the 25 signatures include only those who are registered or previously voted, or does it include anyone who meets the criteria to be an elector regardless of registration status?
It is anyone who meets the criteria to be an eligible elector or voter.
Can I talk about my intention to run before actually filing my papers? In brackets, not actively campaigning.
Subject to what Michael and Sarah may have to say, I would think so, as long as you are not formally, like we mentioned earlier with the previous question, incurring any expenses or actively campaigning before you have filed and as per the MEA sets out.
Michael?
I will just add to that. Keep in mind the last session about campaign finance. Primarily, it would there be any expenses incurred as part of that that discussion or announcement? So, for example, an expenditure related to signage or other types of expenses. Just keep in mind the campaign finance section, and again, refer you to the MEA and seek some legal advice should you be concerned.
Thanks, Michael. I believe that's all we have for tonight. Sorry, sir, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask for the ward boundaries. Are they set as in the map or are they still?
So in this election, you will be voting in the new ward boundaries. Currently, the boundaries stay as they are. They will come into effect as of November 15, 2026.
And the new map can be found at london.ca/elections or london.ca/ward boundary review. And there is the new map for the next election.
And they are set in stone. They will not be changing further. Those would be the boundaries that you'll run.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to ask about the maps.
Sorry.
I just wanted to ask about the maps. I think I saw online that you could see the map that's in the back of this book. Is it possible to just get the ward map of individuals? Is that there?
Yes. So online, for example, if you wanted to do that, there's also an interactive map where you can pull up based on the address or just based on the ward itself. If you're looking for a physical map or a physical ward map itself, that will become available in the elections office I would say in the coming weeks or early months.
Go ahead.
So that'll be part of your package that you pick up. We'll provide you with paper copies of the ward or wards that you're choosing to run in. Like if you're running for mayor, we'll provide you a copy of the city.
We did have, as we continue, a couple more online. Do volunteers who go door to door count as an expense? I think the key word there is volunteers, but go ahead.
So that is explicitly in the act. Volunteer labor is not an expense.
Are using social media channels to promote a campaign considered subject to finance laws?
That one's a bit gray, as long as you're not incurring an expense. So if you have a Facebook, Michael, if you have a Facebook page and you're posting on it, that's not an expense. But if you're buying ads, that's an expense.
I would concur that that is a somewhat of a difficult area. Incurring an expense, for example, to pay for distribution. For example, if you're paying for a campaign to push it to certain demographics or that kind of thing, that clearly would be an expense that you would pay to the social media company. That's a bit clearer. As far as campaign, though, and what would count as an expense, that's where you would want to seek some guidance, whether that be from a professional accountant or a lawyer, to assess what needs to be reported and how much. But campaign finance laws in the campaign finance section of this presentation, I would highly encourage you to review, as that is one significant area that candidates should really pay attention to.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Appreciate everyone coming out. London.ca/elections is your go-to for any updates. That is the official home for London elections. And if you have inquiries after this, whether you're online or in person, elections@london.ca is the email. Thanks so much. Have a safe trip home.